Chair of the House Judiciary Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor and as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with House Rule 67 and the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. This is a public hearing of bills referred to the Judiciary Committee. This will be an executive session today on pending legislation. Please note that there is no physical location for members of the public to observe or listen contemporaneously to this meeting contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all members of the committee and select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by the Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information has been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court website. The notice for this meeting complies with House Rules and RSA 91-A, the right to know law. Anyone who has a problem accessing the meeting should call 271-3600 or email hcs@leg.state.nh.us. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. We do have one staff member who will be listening in today, attending, and that is Jennifer Four, our committee researcher.
8, 1.
Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting will be done by roll call vote. We'll begin the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with them during this meeting, which is required by the right to know law. I'm Ed Gordon, serving as chair. I am at the Legislative Office building with others in the room. And Mr. Clerk, could you call the roll?
Who's here today? Representative Alexander.
Good morning. I am here in Goffstown. My roommate is in the house.
Representative Birch.
I'm here and I'm in Westmoreland alone.
Representative Chase.
I'm here in Rollinsford and I'm alone.
Representative DiLorenzo.
Good morning. I'm here in my home office in Newmarket and I'm alone in the room.
Representative Green.
I'm here in my home office in Hudson with my wife.
Representative Horgan.
I'm here at my home office in Durham by myself.
Representative Kelly.
Hi, I'm here in Temple with the dog, daughter's home, but not in the room.
Representative Kenny.
I am here in Durham. Roommates are throughout the house.
Representative Langley.
Good morning. I'm here in Manchester and my husband is home.
Representative Macbeth. Representative Macbeth. Representative McLean.
I'm present in the committee room.
Representative Page.
Morning. Excuse me. Good morning. I'm present in Exeter at my home office with children in the house.
Representative Rice.
Good morning. I'm at my home office with my husband and kids around.
Representative LaSalle.
I'm here at the LOB.
Representative Simpson.
Good morning. I'm here in Exeter and my husband and sons may pass through at some point, but I'm alone right now.
Representative Representative Smith.
Representative Smith, I'm in Durham alone, and please note that Representative Macbeth has joined us, so you can call her.
Representative Macbeth.
I'm present in my home office in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Sylvia.
I am home alone in Belmont.
Representative Tosh.
Good morning. I am alone in Merrimack.
Representative Trottier.
Good morning. I'm in my home office alone. There are kids in the house though.
Representative Swalper is here in LOB 208 with a couple other committee members. Here we have 21 people.
Great.
Everyone is here. And
I would note that the chair received notice that Representative Silver would be unable to attend today. I did receive notice from the Speaker's office yesterday that Representative Lascelles would be his substitute today.
welcome.
What we'll do is we'll go through we'll plan to go through, we have 17 bills that have been heard. These are the remainder of our House bills, 17 bills that have been heard but need to be exacted upon. And we'll plan to go through those today. We'll plan to go through them in order by number, lowest number first. The first bill is House Bill 149. This is an act extending certain civil immunity to public and private entities during major public health emergencies. Is there a motion on that?
Representative Rice has
Yeah, Representative Rice.
And I'll
Sorry.
second.
Yes, I'll move to retain HB 149.
Is that seconded?
I will second that.
Seconded by Representative Green. Is there any discussion on that?
Well, what is, I'll just ask, what's the rationale for retaining this particular one? So,
Give me a second. I have to pull up the bill. Perhaps Representative Green could speak to that.
Well, we just thought there's a lot more work that needs to be done on it. You have certain factions who really hate the bill. The legal community, from what we heard in testimony, really didn't like the bill, but they were just, we couldn't come to a consensus to it, I didn't feel. So that's why I think we should retain.
all right, thanks.
Yes, Representative McLean.
I think as well, there were some concerns about the mechanics of the bill. You know, the concept is good, but there were concerns about the mechanics of the bill. And we also didn't want to put business owners in the place of being law enforcement, as it were. So there were some things that we wanted to tease out and felt that retention might be a good way to go.
Any other comments or discussion? The motion is to retain the bill. And seeing no other comments, Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll on that?
On retaining House Bill 149, Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lascelles.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Representative Tosh. Representative Tosh.
Sorry, excuse me. I was on a call. Could you clarify for me which bill we're voting on right now?
The motion is whether or not to retain House Bill 149.
Yes.
Representative Trotter,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative Di Lorenzo,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Did you hear me? Yes.
Yes. It's a thumbs up.
I heard her, barely.
Okay, thank you.
You're really quiet. Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
unanimous, 21-0, move consent.
Doesn't have to go.
Oh, it doesn't have to go to consent, we're retaining.
Retain.
Just put that over here in this file.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I make a comment about people needing to have their cameras on when they vote as well?
Right. That's, people are required, been reminded by Representative McLean that if you are going to vote, you need to have your camera on at the time for your vote to count. House Bill 216, an act relative to public notice of and access to meetings under the right to know law. Yes, is there a motion that? Yes, Representative Alexander, do you have a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move HB 216 and expanding to legislate.
I'll second that. And who would like to speak to? Yes, Representative Simpson.
I'm actually going to speak against an expedient to legislate. If somebody else wants to speak to it first, feel free.
Yeah.
Will you, for the record?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear if Representative Welper said something.
Representative Alexander, did you want to speak to your ITL first?
Well, I think this bill needs a little bit more work. I don't think that we have necessarily a need for it at this time. I think municipalities and other groups have done a great job, adjusting to the realities we have today. And I think that ITLing this bill is the best way forward.
Thank you. Having seconded, I just want to add my comments. The one thing about this particular bill, I think I'm not opposed to having the remote access, but if I read this bill, it lets members decide whether or not they want to be able to access meetings remotely, as opposed to letting the public body make that decision. I think ultimately it should be the body that decides whether or not its members should be able to participate remotely. So that's why I agree with the ITL. And Representative Simpson, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you. I have heard from a lot of folks in my district, town officials and others who have really appreciated using the remote access to meetings. And so if this motion were to fail, I have an amendment that does a few things that would help it, I think, be more acceptable to folks. I don't know if I am permitted to mention what those things are now or not, but it does help with an issue that the municipal association had. I talked to them and added, changed language there, as well as changed whoever has the authority to make the meeting remote, change that to the public body as opposed to the member. And then also added in clarification to deal with the chat function. So I think that it'd be, I don't know if anyone read my amendment, but I think we could fix some things that might make it amenable to folks, but Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Representative Sylvia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am opposed to these remote meetings in every possible way. It appears to be more transparent, but the fact of the matter is that I think it's less transparent. It's less organized. The people may have access to speak to the legislators, but frankly, a lot of times we don't know if the legislators are actually listening or hearing. We tend to do other things while we are in our homes. We tend to forget that we are in our homes and we are not in a body that deserves a little more of a formal setting. So it's not this particular bill. I also have an amendment for Representative McGuire's bill, the last one that we'll be hearing, to take out that portion of her bill that is to do with public remote hearings. So I just think that the process is terrible. It's awkward. It doesn't get the attention that it really deserves. And to pretend that we are giving folks more access is a disservice to them. Thank you.
Representative Horgan.
Yes, I just wanted to say this has been one of the few things we've had to do since events of almost exactly a year ago the public actually likes. So this has proven to be very popular. I've seen that both this body that I belong to, the House, and with the Senate, and also municipal government. So public participation in hearings has gone up, and also in the case of legislature, we now automatically have a recording of everything that happens in the committee room, which sometimes is good. I mean, sometimes it's bad, but I think that's a huge step forward. Before, the only record was really just whatever the clerk wrote down.
You just can't stay.
So not that our clerk doesn't do great work, but still, that's a much less complete record than what we have now. So I think this is a large step forward.
Thank you. Representative Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I am opposed to the ITL motion. I want this to be over. I don't want to be on solitary confinement any longer. I want us to be sitting amongst each other where we can exchange views and influence each other in a positive way. However, forced to have these Zoom calls, forced to look at these little postage stamp pictures of my colleagues, nonetheless, it has been clear to me that this process, which is painful for us, has opened up the legislative process in just the way it should. As we look at the number of people who are attending, today there happen to be only 42 people who are in the attendees list, more than could comfortably fit in our committee room. And we have had hundreds of people watching us. And I believe that we are elected to represent the people. That's why they call us representatives. And this gives us an opportunity to grow and learn from what had been a very, for me certainly, it's been a very painful time. As we approach our 1-year anniversary of our 20-hour session. I would like to commend Representative Simpson, who listened very, very carefully to every question that was raised by the public, particularly the institutions that we tend to listen to. And her amendment, which has been sent to everybody, addresses every one of those concerns. And I would hope that the committee would not support the ITL and would instead consider OTPA. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there other comments, questions?
Well, I think I'll raise my hand again.
Okay, go ahead, Representative Wolper.
So everything that's been said so far is accurate. And for me, I got two perspectives on this. One is the burden on the record keeping of these things is enormously more than it was before. This is my second term as clerk of the Judiciary Committee, and I have so much work this year that my wife bought a dog. I wish it were a joke, but it isn't. And in addition to that, there are a lot of questions about security and control of meetings using these technology, the technology that we're using today. I know board members of boards in towns who are absolutely beside themselves because they have unpopular views and they aren't allowed to speak from remote during their meetings because somebody sitting in the office just puts them on mute. There are a lot of other questions to go with it. And so I don't think we're ready to do this on a broad-based basis. I'd like to say that we are, but I don't think we are. So that's why I'm voting on TL.
Thank you. And Representative Smith, did you want to speak again?
If that's all right with everyone, I would like to speak again. What Representative Wolper notes, he has 2 points, one of which I completely agree with, and that is that the system as it is right now puts an undue burden on those individuals who in the legislature who have volunteered to be clerk. And I believe that there are ways of dealing with that when we ask the staff and others to focus on that. I have some ideas. I'm sure Representative Welker does. The other point that Representative Welper made, I'm completely in sympathy with him, but the story he tells is the story of someone with behavior that is unconscionable. By muting someone with an unpopular view. And I believe that by having that come out in the open and challenging it and making clear that in a civil society we expect disparate views and we expect to respect those disparate views, I see that as a plus because that is transparent now and totally unacceptable. And one would hope that either the behavior would change or the person who inappropriately behaved that way would be embarrassed, and or those people who elected him or her or appointed him or her would have learned not to do that again. So I don't see that as a negative. I don't see the clerk responsibility as a permanent reason, and the pluses of involving the community in ways that they had never been involved before and holding us accountable, I believe strongly outweigh the negatives. And if the municipal association, which tends to be very clear and very strong in their positions, nonetheless could listen to Representative Simpson and accept her suggestion for correcting their concern, I think we ought to give particular credence to that to reward them so that perhaps next time they'll also consider amendments. Thank you.
Representative Simpson.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify one of the issues. The municipal association was concerned they didn't want there to have to be a remote meeting if there was a physical location of the meeting. So that would be part of a potential, if we voted on an amendment, that'd be part of the amendment, that if there is a physical location, there would be no requirement for remote access.
Any other?
Only be communities that wanted this.
Any other questions or comments? If not, the pending motion is inexpedient to legislate. And we, if in fact that fails, we'll deal with Representative Simpson's potential amendment at the time. But we're going to vote on inexpedient to legislate, and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
House Bill 216, inexpedient to legislate. Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lassell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trottier.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
No.
Representative Birch.
No.
Representative Horrigan.
No.
Representative Di Lorenzo.
No.
Representative Chase.
No.
Representative Kenny.
No.
Representative Langley.
No.
Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Page.
No.
Representative Simpson.
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have to vote as 11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
Mr. Chair, there will be a minority report. It will be OTPA, and Representative Simpson will be writing it.
Thank you very much. House Bill 232, an act relative to non-public sessions under the right to know law.
I have a motion. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move OTP.
Representative Sylvia moved on to pass. Seconded by Representative McLean. Would you like to address that, Representative Sylvia?
Yes, just as a reminder, this kind of started with an issue in Laconia that we happened to find out about, where a property purchase was negotiated and consummated in a non-public session, and in fact buried in some bonding issues that were given obscure names. So this bill allows the price negotiation to happen in the non-public session, but it requires that the portion of that purchase is going to happen in a public meeting. So this adds transparency to an issue that certainly needs it.
And Representative Horrigan?
oh yes, I was going to jump in and make the opposite motion. So just so which I think is the proper motion. I think even that one instance I think doesn't prove that any law like this is unnecessary. I'm not going to say that that the transaction was done right or wrong, but I think that was there were probably are legitimate reasons for moving it secret anyway. Eventually it all comes out in public anyway. So I think we shouldn't be making this law just to deal with that one situation in Laconia, which I'm not even sure if that situation in Laconia, I never got a good explanation of what happened was so terrible. So that's I just think this is unnecessary bill. So I would urge you to turn down the ought to pass, so then an alternative motion that inexpedient to legislate can be introduced. So thanks.
Any other discussion? There's no other discussion. We'll have a vote on the motion. This is on House Bill 232 and the motion ought to pass.
House Bill 232 ought to pass. Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lassell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Horrigan,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
The motion about to pass, is there going to be a minority report?
Yes, I will. I'll plan on a minority report, and motion will be, as I said, ITL. So, thanks.
There'll be a minority report from Representative Horrigan for inexpedient to legislate. Next bill is House Bill 288, an act eliminating the Housing Appeal Board. Is there a motion?
$288. I think,
That's fine. I'm sorry. I have a motion for that. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to vote ITL, move ITL on that.
Is that seconded?
I second it.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. Margie can.
Representative Smith, second. And Representative Macbeth, did you want to address that at all?
Yes, just briefly, Chair, thank you. I just, the board is in its infancy. The chair announced that invited us all to attend the first hearing on April 17th. The continuation of the board is in the governor's budget, and there was really resounding support from the public that day. So I hope that the ITL would be considered by my colleagues, and this issue can be considered maybe in a year later when we have some real evidence of what the board will do. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, then Mr. Clerk, I think you can call the roll. This is on the motion of House Bill 288.
House Bill 288, inexpedient to legislate. Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
No.
the court votes no. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
No.
Representative Lassell,
Yes.
I put myself down. Representative Green,
No.
Representative Kelly,
No.
Representative Tosh,
No.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Horrigan,
Yes.
Representative DiLorenzo,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I vote is 15 in the affirmative, 6 in the negative.
Vote being 15-6, the motion of inexpedient to legislate carries. That will be the recommendation. Will there be a minority report from anyone? Seeing none.
They should, so I guess that means I'll do it.
You want to do a minority report, Representative Sylvia?
Yes, I think anytime we have a vote like that, we probably should at least explain our side.
Okay, would that be ought to pass?
Yes.
House Bill 379, an act relative to electronic notice. And is there a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move we retain House Bill 379.
I'll second that, Representative Sylvia.
So there's a motion made by Representative Wolper and seconded by Representative Sylvia to retain House Bill 379. You wanted to offer for that.
Any great wisdom for this? Thank you.
Is there any discussion on that? There's no discussion. We'll take a vote. This is on a motion to retain House Bill 379. Mr. Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Momentarily, Mr. Chairman. Okay. On retaining House Bill 379, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes, Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rush,
Yes.
Representative Wassell,
Yes.
Representative Reed,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Toth,
Yes.
Representative Trotter,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
yes,
Representative Burke,
Yes.
Representative Morgan,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
yes,
Representative Chase,
yes,
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I voted 20 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
Having voted 20 to 1 in favor of the motion to retain, the bill will be retained in committee. House Bill 402, an act relative to takings of property in a declared emergency.
I'll move. All to pass.
I'll second.
Moved by Representative Sylvia. What did you move, Representative Sylvia?
All to pass.
And seconded by Representative McLean. Do you want to address that, Representative Sylvia?
Certainly. Just briefly, this is my bill that I sponsored. This sets a very, very high hurdle for property takings in the event of an emergency under RSA 4:46. This requires 2/3 of the House and the Senate in order to take property. I think that where we are talking about one of the most fundamental rights that are in our Constitution, basically Part First, Article 1 and 2, protect our property rights, and an emergency that would require some sort of taking that is a real emergency would not even stop to look at what the statute says. So if there is time for the governor and the council to consider an emergency taking, then there's time to involve also the Senate and the House. Thank you.
Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak in opposition to this bill. I found the argument just presented curious in that the sponsor suggests that in a real emergency, people would just ignore this legislation anyway. And I scarcely think that's a good basis to pass legislation under a theory that it'll be ignored. I discussed during our hearing about the difficulty in envisioning how this would work in the time of a natural disaster, and whether the fact of emergency. Nobody discussed, so I want to discuss for just a moment the practical aspect of this bill. As Churchill said, however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results. This calls for the meeting during an emergency of the House and Senate. There's two ways that the House and Senate meet. They meet in regular session and they meet in special session. So let's say this is a call that would have to be done by special session. There's two ways to do a special call the legislature together by special session. One requires an act by the governor and the executive council. Then presumably notice goes out to 424 people. And then there's a decision to be made where they're going to meet. I understand my friend from Belmont is not in favor of remote meetings. So they would have to find a place for the 424 people to meet. I suspect that would take a week or two to get done, and then notice and the like. The other method, of course, is the legislature can call itself into session. That requires, according to RSA 16, starting with a petition of not less than 50 members that goes out, and then there's a mail vote by the entire body. Once all the mail is collected and counted, if that passes, then a special session can be called into being, and that'll probably add an extra 3 or 4 weeks to the process. It's called an emergency because it's an emergency. And the idea where we can't get our own regular sessions going in less than a couple of weeks. The idea that in the middle of an emergency, there's an act of God, there's flooding in Concord, or there's a major fire, and they need emergency management needs to move heavy equipment, and it might be on somebody's property, or set up a sandbags or whatever it may be on a temporary basis, that we have to wait 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks to get 424 people together in some manner, probably not remote, to vote. The power to do so is just it's a non-starter. I mean, I understand the wish to diminish the governor's power here. I share some of that, but this bill is just a ineffectual way to do it, and I urge a rejection of the OTP motion.
Representative Horgan.
Thank you. My Representative Birch said a lot of what I wanted to say, but first of all, I want to say I hope no one is inferring that what we've survived for the last year and what's going to be going on for a while longer. Hopefully, we'll be back to some sort of new normal pretty soon, but it's going to be a while. Hopefully, nobody thinks that that's not a real emergency. I don't think I've ever lived through any national emergency or global emergency that was any realer than this one. This is a very severe crisis. I'm not aware that much taking a property in this. If you look at the rest of the RSA, it's fairly limited. They even carved out a special exemption in paragraph Roman 1A for guns. So your guns are protected, and then also any personal property owned by individuals or families. So it's very restricted anyway. And also there's the whole issue of how the legislature would meet. I think certainly, I certainly say back in March or April 2020, it would have been impossible for the House to meet. I don't think you could have even if Speaker Shurtleff had figured out a place for us to meet in person, I'm not sure that he would have been able to get a quorum. So, the whole thing, the whole thing is unworkable. So that's, what we could do, we could have some existing committee like the Joint Fiscal Committee, or we could set up a new one that would do that. That would involve a total rewrite of the bill, and I don't know whether the 2/3 supermajority would be appropriate then too. The whole thing is unworkable, and we never did get any evidence that any property was taken pursuant to that. So I haven't seen any examples of it. I mean, we have certainly entered into rental agreements for property. The governor spent $500,000 renting the Grapponi Center. As far as I know, we're still in the Grapponi Center. We spent some amount of money renting facilities from UNH, more recently from the LLC that owns the New Hampshire Sportsplex in Bedford, but that's not a taking of property either. We were just borrowed somebody else's property for a limited period of time. So I just, this thing is totally unworkable. So I certainly think it ought to pass. It's definitely the wrong way to go. So that's what I think. So.
Thank you. Representative Sylvia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say that this is not targeted at our governor, either presently or in the future. This is targeted at protecting the rights that our citizens have. And I'll just note that this statute was not in existence before the year 2002. And this wonderful state of ours survived quite nicely through many a catastrophe. And I think we will continue with this in place. Thank you.
And Representative Birch.
Yes, just a quick note that I forgot to mention. I noticed there's no fiscal note here. I'm curious because I suspect if a special session is called, that there's considerable expense involved. I don't know what the cost of us going over to a sports stadium is, and the transportation costs for all the reps and the publication so that the public can attend or listen, but I'm sure it comes over the statutory amount, and I am loath to spend money of the public for something that appears so unnecessary. But can there be a request for a fiscal note?
I'm not sure at this point there can be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I guess we have to vote on the pending motion first before we decide whether or not we wanted to ask for a fiscal note. Representative.
So this piece of the statute, as far as we know, has not been used in the full-time 18 years that it's been in place. The calling of a special session once every 20 years, that would be maybe even once every 100 years. That's a ridiculous argument. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure, Representative Sylvia, we need to characterize each other's arguments as ridiculous. But Representative Horgan.
Okay, I apologize if I said anything ridiculous. But I hypothetically mentioned the Joint Fiscal Committee. That committee actually did continue meeting throughout the pandemic, but ironically, the CARES Act funding, the extra 1.25 billion of mana that President Trump dropped on us, that was actually all spent by the governor set up his own committee dues. He actually bypassed that committee. So there's probably so there's no guarantee that a future governor won't find some loophole to do what he has to do without a Senate 2/3 of the Senate and the House. And certainly, I mean, as it was, some property was used, but I know certainly the Grapponi Center I mentioned to you, contract that was rented basically at market rates at a fairly generous rate. I'm sure UNH and the LLC that owns New Hampshire Sportsplex were also compensated for our using their property. So that would fall under this anyway. So thanks.
You ready to vote?
Yes.
Seeing no one else with their hand raised, we'll take a vote on the motion which is pending, which is ought to pass on House Bill 402, the act relative to takings of property and declare an emergency. Mr. Clerk, you want to call the vote?
House Bill 402 ought to pass. Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Walper votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lassell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trottier.
Yes.
Representative Smith. Representative Smith.
Oh, you're there.
I'll come back.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. No.
Representative Birch.
No.
Representative Horgan.
No.
Representative DiLorenzo.
No.
Representative Chase.
No.
Representative Kenny.
No.
Representative Langley.
No.
Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Page.
No.
Representative Simpson.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I have an 11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
Being 11 to 10, it adopted the recommendation of ought to pass.
Mr. Chair, I will do a minority report.
Representative Birch will do and would that be inexpedient to legislate?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I just want to make an apology to Representative Birch for my characterization of his argument. And I'm sure that would not have happened if I were sitting in the legislative office building. Apology not needed, but accepted. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. The next bill is House Bill 418, an act relative to Supreme Court reporting. And I think I would make a motion to retain that. I'll second that. I guess that's seconded by Representative McLean. My concern, I fully understand the need to modernize the reporting process, but when I heard the testimony from the court, I grew concerned with regard to the timing, the manner in which it was going to be done, and whether or not there would be some type of continuing written record as a backup. And so for that reason, I think I could have some time to flesh that out if that was possible without making a decision today. Other thoughts or comments? Seeing none, I guess we call the roll. This would be on a motion to retain House Bill 418.
On retaining House Bill 418. Oh, I got a sheet in front of me. Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lassell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trottier.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Birch.
Yes.
Representative Horgan.
Yes.
Representative DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Representative Chase.
Yes.
Representative Kenny.
Yes.
Representative Langley.
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson,
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes.
unanimous 21-0.
Retain that bill for further action, House Bill 418. Next bill is House Bill 440.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment to HB 440. I'd like to move ought to pass and offer an amendment.
So you're moving on to pass and you're going to offer an amendment, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that seconded by Representative Alexander? And you want to address that, Representative Sylvia?
Yes, so this started out as religious liberties, and the amendment 0486H changes this to civil liberties. And the basics of this is that this will provide, under a state of emergency, and only under a state of emergency, the ability to put forward constitutional arguments for the restriction on civil liberties.
And are we addressing your amendment at this point in time? Is that inclusive of your amendment as it's proposed?
That is the amendment, yes.
And what is the amendment number to you?
0486.
0486H.
We have
0486H.
Yeah, I didn't put the 8.
Okay, Representative Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm speaking against this amendment. I believe the amendment would open up a can of worms that could be a pretty dangerous precedent in the future. It's reactionary to the current emergency we find ourselves in. I think the way that civil liberties are defined in the bill will open up probable possibilities of confusion and litigation to have to decide if a governor is stepping on civil liberties. During a pandemic, the governor needs to make calls for the good of Granite Staters. This amendment speaks frequently to COVID-19, so I will state that the mask mandates and not allowing people to congregate and other choices were backed by science. They, true enough, may be inconvenient, but they were not unconstitutional. The Superior Court decided the orders were constitutional. So to conclude, I do think this amendment is not needed, and I do not believe civil liberties have been ignored. I think we can all think of caveats where we know our rights and civil liberties are not being stepped on despite claims, such as not being able to yell bomb on a plane or fire in a movie theater. I believe wearing a mask during a pandemic and the other orders that we saw followed the same type of logic as these caveats. So for these reasons, and to simply put it, that the amendment is not needed, I urge us to vote it down so we can take up the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I appreciate my friend from Durham's, I think he said logic and science very frequently. I just think we're heading too far to the point where science and logic is determining which rights can be trampled on and which ones cannot. And that really, really, really concerns me. This bill is much needed. And I think COVID-19 was a clear example of how far we can stretch these rights. And I just think that, religious liberty, it's in the First Amendment for a reason, because it should be one of it should be the first right that's protected under the law. So we need to pass this amendment. We need to pass this bill. Thank you.
Representative McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is needed legislation. And even though the findings talk a lot about the current crisis in COVID-19, I think this legislation goes beyond that. And my best friend, who was the best man at my wedding and is, like a brother to me to this day, is a Japanese Canadian. I practically grew up in his home with his mother telling me about how she was interred during the Second World War. And during that time, her property was taken, her money was taken, her freedom was taken, and her dignity was taken. And were the people that did this necessarily evil? I don't think so, but there is no dispute that an evil was done upon her. And, you know, in spite of that, she learned to forgive, and she went to her grave loving her country. But again, what are the things? Everybody in this room is a leader of a sort. And so when a crisis presents itself to people in leadership, it is natural, whether we're the governor or the people in this room, that we would want to throw ourselves into the breach. And sometimes trying to do that, we can go too far. Not being evil, we can nevertheless commit evil. What stops us from doing that? What stops us from doing that is the law. And this is an excellent piece of legislation that I think clarifies that. It goes far beyond the current pandemic, and I'm going to support it.
Other comments? If not, I think we vote on the amendment first.
On the amendment?
This is on amendment 0486H, authored by Representative Sylvia.
On amending House Bill 440 with amendment 0486H, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Wassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
This is on the amendment only. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That's correct.
I'll vote yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Horrigan,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have voted 16 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
The vote being 16-5 in favor, you have adopted the amendment. House Bill 440 as amended. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, the discussion now is on OTPA
That's correct. Ought to pass as amended.
as amended, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I voted for the amendment because I believe that the amendment was far preferable to the underlying bill. And if in the fullness of time, this committee were to decide to go ahead with 440, I wanted it to be the text of my colleague, Representative Sylvia's language. However, I believe that the bill as amended is not helpful in any way, in any significant way, to protect the civil liberties of the citizens of this state. I heard Representative McLean's moving testimony, and I too had friends whose families were interred and their civil liberties violated. I have friends who today have their civil liberties and their civil rights violated under existing law. But so the problem is certainly a real problem. But I do not believe that this amendment, in fact, does anything in any broad way to better protect the civil rights and civil liberties of the people of this state, and therefore my intention is to vote no on the bill as amended.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Representative Macbeth.
I voted for the amendment as well. I'm wondering if my colleagues would vote against the ought to pass as amended and vote to retain it now that it's been changed a little, and perhaps we could work on it more in the fullness of time, come up with something that would be supported more broadly. Thank you.
Well, the motion is pending is ought to pass as amended at this point. If that fails, then we'll consider the retaining.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? Okay, on the motion about to pass as amended on House Bill 440, Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll?
Ought to pass as on House Bill 440 amended by 0486H, Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Welper votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Massell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Troyer.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
No.
Representative Birch.
No.
Representative Horrigan.
No.
Representative DiLorenzo.
No.
Representative Chase.
No.
Representative Kenny.
No.
Representative Langley.
No.
Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Page.
No.
Representative Simpson. Representative Simpson.
Oh, sorry, no.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
11 to 10. Recommendation about to pass as amended, and will there be a minority report?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman, I tell.
And would that be expedient to legislate or?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
Kurt, who seconded that?
Was it Alexander?
Alexander.
House Bill 478, an act relative to treatment of PFAS contaminants. Sir, Representative McLean?
I'll move retain.
You, Representative McLean, to retain that bill. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
That, Representative Green? And do you want to address that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think having Litchfield as part of my constituency, I'm very well aware of the PFAS situation, and I'm very sympathetic to it. I have gone through and amended 2 PFAS bills in prior executive sessions, but this one I just think is too complex for an easy amendment. I'm still not certain, does this actually just belong in the courts? That we heard a lot of testimony about the Coakley landfill as being a kind of the precedent, but I really don't think we want to get into a place where the default avenue is always to come to the legislature. So I think there's a lot of work to be done before we could go forward with HB 478.
And any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion to retain House Bill 478. Representative Wolper, Mr. Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
On retaining House Bill 478, Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Massell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trotter,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
yes,
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Horgan, Representative Horgan,
I think
No, I'm a no. No, no.
Representative Di Lorenzo,
yes,
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
yes,
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I have voted 20 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
having voted 20 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, you voted to retain House Bill 478. We'll retain that in committee for further action. House Bill 540, an act relative to supportive decision-making as an alternative to guardianship. Representative Chase, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion. Although you might have to help me here, I did send everyone a amendment. So I'm not sure if we should speak on the amendment first, or if we can just make the motion ought to pass as is.
I gather you're making a motion about to pass and you're going to offer an amendment for our
Thank you
consideration.
very much. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you.
And is that seconded by Representative Wolper is seconding?
Great.
Like to address your motion, Representative Chase?
I would like to address that. This bill is something that is going to make the world of difference in many people's lives, not just in the disability community, but also as we age and need a little bit more help and support with our decision-making, yet not have our dignity and our voice taken away. There was a little, so do I address the amendment 2 at this point, or?
yes.
Yes, thank you
Yes.
so much.
She had 3 amendments.
I'll get it. So there was discussion of not caring very much for the language in the statement of findings. I did understand that very much, but it was,
If I could just interrupt, could you just tell us which, you had kind of multiple amendments, which?
oh, I do? Oh, I'm so sorry. This would be the final amendment, changing the statement of findings and adding a little bit for the IPE. It is 0565H.
565.
The last amendment that was sent in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I apologize for that. You're right, I did have a few. So this just tried to address the language issues that some people brought up about what disabilities were, but I did keep the statement of findings in. Also, the amendment does talk about the recognition of supporters and what they can do. It also just changes, I'm so sorry. It also changes a little bit of language for the IEP teams with students and families and what their role would be. That's line 25 of my amendment. And that, I just think it's a great bill. I'm really excited about it and very proud to be the sponsor. I would hope and urge you to ought to pass with amendment.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amendment
Do we have a
first.
second for that?
I did.
Yes, Representative Wolper seconded the motion. And would you like to call the roll? This is on the amendment. This is Amendment 0565H to House Bill 540.
Thank you.
On amending House Bill 540 with Amendment 0565H, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Bryce,
yes,
Representative LaSalle,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trotter,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Yes.
Representative Oregon,
Yes.
Representative DiLorenzo,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
21 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Unanimously voted in favor of the amendment. You have adopted the amendment. And now we'll, unless there's further discussion, vote on the bill as ought to pass with amendment. Clerk, you can call the roll.
On House Bill 540 as amended by Amendment 0565H, ought to pass. Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes, sorry.
Representative, the clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative LaSalle,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trotter,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Birch,
Absolutely, yes.
Representative Oregon,
Yes.
Representative DiLorenzo,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
up to 21 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
With a vote of 21 to nothing, you voted to recommend ought to pass as amendment on House Bill 540. Does anybody have an objection if it goes on the consent calendar?
No.
Objections? Representative Chase, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your support.
House Bill 542, an act relative to the applicability of a state of emergency declaration to a house of worship. And is there a motion on that?
Oh, I gotta find it. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move ought to pass with amendment on House Bill 542 and offer amendment 0623H.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Representative McLean. And would you like to address your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, amendment 0623H codifies really what the state of New Hampshire made back in December in terms of religious liberty in the state of New Hampshire and the tests that the government must take in order to restrict those rights and the way they can be restricted. And it further goes into, it replaces the entire bill, so it also includes originally 542, talking about the treatment of religious organizations in emergencies, that they can't be treated any worse than other similar types of organizations. And I think it's an important thing that we codify all of this in our, because much as we love the courts, their decisions are subject to change with no notice or very little notice. And the statute would be a strong encouragement for them to continue thinking along the lines they are, protecting our religious freedom.
Other discussion, actually, we're talking about the amendment right now, which is 0623H. which is replaces the entire bill, which is an effective bill. Any other discussion on it?
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes, thank you very much. This is one of those bills where we're treading on eggshells, and I understand that. It is very important in honoring our Constitution and our Bill of Rights to recognize freedom of religion. And I don't think anybody questions that. What I have a problem with is that freedom of religion stops when that freedom of religion interferes with the rights of others. And when is that? Is it because some people believe in Buddha? Some people believe in the absolute literal reading of the New Testament, but not necessarily the literal reading of the Old Testament, for example. No. Everybody is entitled to those thoughts and to those beliefs and to practice them in any way they want. What they are not permitted to do is, by practicing their religion in a particular way, interfere, for example, with my right to survival. There have to be some ways of recognizing both. We have had example after example after example across the country of what has happened when, in defiance of state law and emergency orders, religious bodies have come together in great concentration. I can't remember the exact number, and I don't want to misspeak, but there was not too many months ago a wedding in Brooklyn where there were thousands upon thousands of observers, religious observers, packed together in celebrating that marriage. The result of that was an enormous spike in COVID, and that affected the health of those people who were there and the health of those people who weren't there but had the misfortune to come into contact with people who showed great disdain for the rights of others to protect themselves. The same thing happened in northern Maine. The same things happened in New Hampshire. And in all the testimony that, and I think it was for this particular bill, that struck me the most was the testimony about people who used the church facilities because they were participating in the 12-step programs. And I found that testimony to be very moving, and realized I know how I feel being in isolation. And if I needed the support of others in order to survive, that's pretty important. I think this bill goes too far to say that the only thing that matters is that people should do whatever they want to do in practicing their religion, even if in so doing it damages the life and the health of other people. So it's not easy. It's not an easy decision, but to single out religious gatherings as to be protected from what is viewed as discriminatory treatment, and not to, for example, to put that above those 12-step programs that might not be housed in a religious setting, but in another common setting, I think is to upset the delicate balance that we have been able to maintain in this country for about 250 years. So I know that's my position is not a popular position, but I believe that it is a position that honors and respects the rights of everyone to practice his or her religion as they choose, but does not give them the right to put others in harm's way. Thank you.
Actually, Representative McLean's had his hand up.
Okay, good.
Representative McLean.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think that the freedom of religion, as the prime sponsor said, it is kind of foundational. But I found the testimony from the ACLU actually very enlightening. They didn't speak at the public hearing, but they sent in written testimony. And in that written testimony, they said that the practice to exercise your religion is not free of all restrictions. And I think that one of the strengths of this amended bill is that it recognizes the ability of the state to place neutral restrictions. And so in many ways, the amended language, believe it or not, kind of dovetails in with the ACLU's written testimony. But I think the reason that this bill is necessary is because while it does preserve the right of this ability to put neutral restrictions on religion, the actual testimony that we heard in committee was that the practice of religion was actually inferior and was subordinate. It was not treated in the same way as other emergency services, for example. And I know from my own personal experience that it was much easier for me to go down to Home Depot to look at vanities for my renovation of my home long before I was able to get into church to receive the Blessed Sacrament. So there was a definite difference there. And I think the argument being made by the folks during the public hearing was, hey, we will comply with these neutral restrictions, but the reality is that we were held closed long after many other places were open up, and there was not a recognition of our very important role in the community. So I think all they were asking for is parity. I think that this bill grants that, and I'm going to support it.
Representative Wolberg.
Yeah, so I think that my esteemed colleague has misread the bill or misread the amendment. The amendment institutes the same standard, the compelling interest standard for the state. This has been long recognized as the standard for infringement of the right to practice your faith. And in addition, in emergency circumstances, it simply says a religious organization during a state of emergency, the state government shall permit a religious organization to continue operating and to engage in religious services to the same or greater extent that other organizations or businesses that provide essential services. That's all it says. If they're going to allow other essential services that they consider religion to be an essential service and operate under the same, or maybe looser if they so desire, but on a level playing field.
Yeah, Representative Simpson.
Thank you. So in my private life, I'm a Christian pastor. And so I just want to say that I know firsthand how difficult and heartbreaking it's been for religious communities not to be able to gather during COVID. But there were lots of good reasons that these were treated differently than shopping, for example. For singing purposes, for one, but there were others as well. And I think the guidelines were taxing. I won't lie, but they made a way for creative solutions for how religious communities could come together. And I saw a lot of that from myself and from my colleagues, where communities could come together creatively and safely within the bounds of the public health protocols. I guess I really feel that the freedom to exercise religion is enshrined in the Constitution and that that's not going anywhere. But in the case of these extreme emergencies, like the one we're facing now, the health of the community beyond the walls of our houses of worship is really as important as the spiritual care that's provided inside. So I don't really believe that we need a new law that prioritizes religious freedoms over public health and safety in a crisis. I'm going to have to vote against the amendment and the bill.
Representative Horgan.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The bill's amendment still doesn't have a definition of religion, and that's something that's probably impossible to define. I remember once I was driving to the State House and I was listening to a tape, a spiritual leader, doesn't matter who it was, of the myth of the creator God. So he's talking about how ridiculous it was, the idea of the universe has a creator, and I'm not sure whether the university has. I pretty much accept the universe as it is. So like whether someone created it or not is kind of not a big issue for me personally. But then it was like a 1 o'clock session in the State House. You get there, and the first thing, Reverend Kate Atkinson, the former House chaplain, who I believe she's still the pastor of the church that's right across the street from the State House, and she said, so she started out saying, we hold many beliefs. One thing we all have in common is the idea that there is a creator. And I'm almost like, I almost had to suppress my laughter there, just because I've been hearing someone who describes themselves religious leaders saying exactly the opposite, that there is no creator. But anyway, so I'm not sure how we can differentiate religious groups from other groups. So we certainly we're in a situation where it's extremely dangerous to have mass gatherings of any type. We're still in this situation where it's dangerous. And I think, I know it's difficult for churches. It's difficult for probably all sorts of organizations. But I think sometimes situations crop up like the one we're in now, where we have to have certain restrictions. So that's, I think that's applied to organizations that call themselves religious as opposed to those who don't. And also we talk about the 12-step programs. They are spiritual, but I think they specifically claim not to be a religion per se, even though they require even though they do at least expect people to be open to the idea that there is a God and so forth. So that's, I just think this is an overly broad thing. It's open to like incredible amounts of abuse. And in any case, I think virtually all the many religious and spiritual organizations they found a way to keep meeting. I know like the Catholic Church I was brought up in, they even had to hold their Easter services in Zoom. And I have to confess, I describe myself as Christian in my Blue Book entry, and I just got my Blue Book this morning, but I'm not one of those people who goes to church very often. Maybe that's probably not a good thing, but I did go to a funeral service, and we had it outdoors. The minister had us all stand 6 feet apart at the cemetery. We had mass on, and they Zoomed it, so they were able to hold a funeral service in full compliance with all the emergency order requirements and then some. So it is it's certainly possible for religious groups to keep meeting during an emergency, as indeed they have been during this emergency. So I probably said way too much, but anyway, I plan to vote against this amendment and the bill. So thanks.
Representative Smith. You want it?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I hadn't lowered my hand from before.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Seeing no one, we're going to be voting on the amendment. This is the amendment 0623H to House Bill 542. Mr. Clerk, you want to call the roll?
On accepting Amendment 0623H to House Bill 542, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Wassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Horgan,
No.
Representative Di Lorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
Sorry, no.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
We've adopted the amendment 0623H to House Bill 542. And now, unless the discussion will vote on the itself, which is in effect the amendment. Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
623. Okay. House Bill 542 ought to pass as amended. Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walper votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Wassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Horgan,
No.
Representative Di Lorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
Okay, we've adopted the recommendation about to pass as amendment in House Bill 542. Would there be a minority report?
Yes.
And who was that? Simpson. Representative Simpson?
Yeah. Yes.
ITL.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Okay.
Thank you. You don't have to answer it, of course. But I need some clarification. I'm thinking of the two bills we've acted on, 440 as amended by our distinguished colleague, Representative Sylvia, and 542. I'm a little confused about how they are the same and how they're different. I mean, each has had significant amendment, and in some ways, I thought they were combined. Can you give me a tutorial having nothing to do with voting, just explaining the substance of the two bills to me?
Well, I'm going to rely on each individual. I can't speak for anyone else who may have voted, so.
Well, would Representative Sylvia or Representative Walper help me out?
Sure, I'll speak to 440. It is related to general civil liberties. as opposed to the last one, which is more specific to religious liberties. So I think there's certainly a difference there.
So at the amendment 0623 that we just adopted at 2542 did incorporate a lot of the original House Bill 440, which was replaced by Representative Sylvia's amendment. As this we went through the legislative process to sponsor House Bill 440, thought that the language he had written had been enacted, if you will, had been decreed, is it maybe a better word, by the Supreme Court in the Mack decision in December. So he introduced the amendment that Representative Sylvia brought to us to expand the focus of, to expand the whole idea of protection of civil liberties without the emphasis on religious freedom. But others thought it was very important that we not solely rely on the Supreme Court decision to protect our religious freedom, and important that we clarify that religious freedom should be at least on the same playing field as all of our other civil liberties. So we had 440 as amended. It dealt broadly with civil liberties, and the amendment that was brought into 542 much more clearly focused on religious liberty and the importance of it getting at least equal treatment with all others.
Thank you, Representative Welper. That was very helpful.
Thank you. I was thinking that perhaps people would like to take a break for a few minutes. So it's about 11:15. So why don't we plan to come back at reconvene at 11 o'clock, recess until 11 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
That'd be awesome. Thanks. Thank you.
Still can't use the oven, but at least I can cook on top of the stove and have my coffee. Okay, we're doing House Bill 550 next.
All right, so we are now unmuted, guys.
You know what's another good committee for discussions is the Science and Technology
Oh, yeah.
Committee. They have some very in-depth discussions.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
You know what? I wish they could have one or two people on that committee that could talk to people. Because every one of them gets up on the floor and I'm gone. I can't follow what they're talking about. They start talking about the details of these things and none of us understand.
I think they're getting better at it though. I think
You guys are broadcasting live, you know that.
Yeah, you guys are not muted.
Yeah, we do know that. Thank you.
We're just complimenting our colleagues.
Well.
See, this is one of the problems with doing this the way we're doing it. When we're not in session, we're still on live, right?
It's really not that hard to figure out.
Oh. Well, that happened in the old days. People would say stuff when we're in the room and other people would hear it anyway. So that's nothing new. Now just there's a recording of it, unless we mute the microphone in the room. So, but yeah, that's.
Well,
Plus that, I don't mind taking compliments, so you're welcome.
It reminds me, having grown up on a farm in Illinois, of the old party lines.
Yes.
You'd be talking and there'd be 6 other people on the line.
Oh, I had a 4-party line in Vermont.
I don't know how many we had up in Belmont, but it was the same thing. Got the phone and people would already be talking. Well, there wouldn't be anybody talking and you'd start and then they just pick it up and news travels fast.
I remember that as a kid. My grandmother was one of the original operators in, well, actually Newburyport, Mass, the switchboard operators. So yeah, we would hear a lot. Nice not to have to share that party line anymore.
Yeah.
We're Democrats. We don't do no stinking party lines.
Hit the mute button, guys.
Okay, we will return to our duties. Our next bill to act upon today is House Bill 550, an act relative to the non-payment of rent during the state of emergency. Is there, see a hand up, Representative Silver, a motion on that?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move inexpedient to legislate on HB 550.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Representative Kelly. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Sylvia?
Certainly. First of all, I don't know that this bill is entirely necessary with all of the relief that is already going on. And perhaps by the time that this might make it through the process, it would be entirely unnecessary. But beyond that, when we talk about adding costs onto landlords, that ends up in one place, and that is rents. And it pushes up rents for those who are paying. And we already know that we have a tremendous problem with folks finding affordable housing, and this would damage it and make it even more difficult. So I don't see any reason to proceed with this bill other than inexpedient to legislate.
Representative Page?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak in opposition of the ITL and would motion for ought to pass. The bill, I won't, very briefly, this bill is not just about helping the housing insecurity issue, but it's economically efficient. It provides a way for courts to quickly dispose, first to continue a case and then perhaps dispose of it quickly if someone's applying for rental assistance. I think to the point on relief, it's perhaps more salient now than it was when we first heard testimony on it because of additional COVID relief. I think there's somewhere in the north range of 22 billion in rental assistance, the latest COVID relief package, which I assume the president will sign, and that would be helping folks. This statute only helps utilization of that money. So for those reasons, I would support to pass. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, Representative Di Lorenzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking my question. I think what we need to really focus on is that this bill does only one thing. It provides a 30-day extension for non-payment of rent cases that have been entered into the court. It does not interfere with cause evictions. And it only applies during the pandemic. Just a couple of weeks ago, the governor's office is in the process of releasing funds to assist landlords and tenants with delinquent rent payments. This is money from the Gopher money that was previously allocated. The money will be administered by the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, and it will be distributed by the CAP agencies. Now, what's great about these Gopher funds is that the payments will go directly to the landlords. So I see this as a win-win for landlords and for tenants. Thank you.
Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The money that's coming from the Gopher funding is already something that's being given to our landlord and tenants and has really not a whole lot to do with this particular bill. I think there is a significant housing crisis, but again, I think the issue is with supply. More regulation we put on landlords and tenants, the more it's going to exacerbate this crisis. This bill needs to be ITL. Thank you.
Any other discussion? This is on House Bill 550. Seeing none, we do have a motion pending. That's for inexpedient to legislate. And seeing no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
Inexpedient to legislate House Bill 550. Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Welper votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Lassell.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trottier.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
No.
Representative Birch.
No.
Representative Horrigan.
No.
Representative Di Lorenzo.
No.
Representative Chase.
No.
Representative Kenny.
No.
Representative Langley.
No.
Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Page.
No.
Representative Simpson.
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have the vote 11 in the affirmative, 10 negative.
You adopted the recommendation of inexpedient to legislate. House Bill 561, an act relative.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think there will be a minority report on this.
I'm sorry, acting too quickly. And Representative Page, you can do that?
Yes, it will. Thank you.
It's going to be ought to pass.
Ought to pass.
Thank you.
House Bill 561, an act relative to potential jurors excused from jury duty due to a lack of residency in the county of jury service. We have a motion. Yeah, I see a hand up. Representative Sylvia.
Yes, I move ought to pass on HB 561.
Is there a second to that? Seconded by Representative Alexander. And would you like to speak to that, Representative Sylvia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a rather simple proposal to help. I think it'll help our supervisors of checklists to purge some old data. Simply cleaning up the voter rolls if people move and they don't re-register, or there have been occasions where people were registered in 2 places and inadvertently forgot about it and ended up voting in 2 places. So we could help avoid those sorts of situations. I think that'd be a benefit for everybody.
Representative Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm speaking against the recommendation. This bill, on the surface, I was actually looking forward to the hearing because I was curious what problem it would be solving, why this list was necessary, who was excused from jury service. But the first words out of the sponsor's mouth was, this bill is about voter integrity. He referred to it as a small tool that could be used for tracking potential fraud. I just think that it's in the wrong committee, and I believe there was a back and forth conversation between 2 members where it was questioned why, if this is the intent, it would not go to election, and the response was, well, how would you tell it should go to election law? And I think that's a very fair point. And I think if it's not in the proper committee because the intent is that not clear, it's not ready to pass. That aside, based off the merits and the said intent, I do not believe the prime sponsor introduced to us an actual problem that we have in New Hampshire. So for that reason, I am speaking against this recommendation and would offer ITL. Thank you.
Representative Horgan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Oh, I can unmute my. Oh, I'm unmuted for once. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I agree. Yeah, the sponsor, he described it as voter integrity, but I would use a different noun after voter hyphen. So, first of all, jury lists are compiled not just from the voter rolls from other places. And in fact, one of the reasons why people are reluctant to vote is because they're afraid to be called for jury duties. And so these 2 things shouldn't be coupled together. There are other sources that the court uses to compile a list of citizens who live in the county. Also, this bill doesn't even do what it intends to do because it simply says they're going to publish a list on the Secretary of State's website, which, even though it's recently upgraded, is not the most user-friendly website, but it doesn't give anybody any power to do anything with that list. So like it doesn't authorize the supervisor the checklist. There's nothing that says they have to look at the list. I'm not even sure if they'd be authorized to purge somebody from it just based on that list. So that's another problem. So aside from the fact that I disagree with what it does in principle, we also need to maintain the confidentiality of the juror roles, and also it just doesn't do what it sets out to do. So there's 3 good reasons right there to ITL it. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Anybody else wish to speak? If not, we have a motion about to pass on House Bill 561. Clerk, take the roll.
House Bill 561 ought to pass. Representative McLean?
Yes.
Representative Sylvia?
Yes.
Representative Walker? Representative Alexander?
Yes.
Representative Rice?
Yes.
Representative LaSalle?
Yes.
Representative Green?
Yes.
Representative Kelly?
Yes.
Representative Tosh?
Yes.
Representative Trottier?
Yes.
Representative Smith?
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Oregon,
No.
Representative Di Lorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
have an 11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
We've adopted the recommendation of OCT to pass. And Representative Kenny, are you going to do a minority report?
Yes, please, an expedient to legislate. Thank you.
Thank you. And House Bill 566, an act relative to records in non-public session under the right to know law. And
Representative Horgan would like to move IPL. Guess I haven't.
saw Representative Alexander's hand up first, I think. So,
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move ought to pass as amended and offer amendment 0425H.
Was that 0425H?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And is there a second to that? I'll second that. Would you like to address your motion, Representative Alexander?
Sure. So there were some concerns I had with this bill last year when it was presented by the sponsor. However, I believe the sponsors addressed those concerns with the bill filed this year. This bill would require regular review of sealed minutes of non-public sessions by making them public after 1 year. And if the circumstances around these minutes have changed, then the local board can, after review, release those minutes. If the board chooses to keep these minutes sealed, they're allowed to keep them sealed with a 2/3 vote. The amendment that I have moved addresses concerns by the Municipal Association and also has the support of Right to Know New Hampshire. I think this is a great bill that will allow for more transparency in our government, and I encourage everyone to vote for the amendment in the bill. Thanks.
Or any other discussion? Yes, Representative Horgan.
Yes, well, I would have offered a motion for ITL, and if this fails, I will offer one. So I think this is first of all, it makes a special provision for the language about subparagraph 2D. That's the real estate transaction, so it covers the same ground as 232. So I'm opposed to it, special treatment of that one for the same reason. I opposed to HB 232. I also think just the basic idea of forcing the public bodies to vote on the minutes of all the sealed minutes going back to however long, back to like the beginning of time. I think that's an unnecessary burden. They could theoretically be spending their whole time just constantly voting at every meeting on the old unsealed record. So that just seems like a waste of time, although they'll probably work around it by writing the rules. So they'll just have a consent calendar of the minutes or something. So I think I just don't think there's any need for it. And there already is disclosure of like which minutes have been sealed. So like somebody's really concerned, they can go back to it and ask for them to be unsealed. I'm not sure. A lot of the things where the minutes are sealed are like not of much lasting interest anyway, I believe. So I would urge you to vote against the amendment, vote against the underlying bill, and then move on to an ITL. So thanks. So, I'm opposed.
Other discussion? The motion is pending. Actually, what's pending right now is an amendment offered by Representative Alexander to House Bill 566. There's no further discussion on that. I'll ask the clerk to call a roll. It's on Amendment 04258.
On accepting Amendment 0425H for House Bill 566, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Lassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Horrigan,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kane,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have an 11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
We've adopted the Amendment 0425H to House Bill 566. Unless there's further discussion, we'll vote on the recommendation to pass as amended.
House Bill 566, amended by Amendment 0425H. 0425H. Representative McLean, ought to pass as amended. Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Wassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Horrigan,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have 11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
So we've adopted the recommendation about to pass as amended. And Representative Horrigan, are you doing a minority report?
Yes. Would your preference be that I attack it'll be brief in either case, but should I be arguing against the OTPA or the original bill? Although I suppose the same arguments apply to both.
I think you'll be arguing ITL.
Okay, thank you.
House Bill 578, an act relative to standards for mental health courts. And I think I would make a motion of ITL on that particular. Seconded by Representative McLean. And the reason I have what I, frankly, my understanding was that this came out of a study committee. And the study committee basically said there ought to be standards for mental health courts, and that the mental health courts are being conducted by the courts right now. And the way they're conducted is in a consistent manner, that they're applying different standards in different courts. And so what the bill does directs the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to do a report with regard to adopting standards. And I guess I have two issues with that. The first issue is I don't think it's up to the legislature to tell another branch of government, in this particular case, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, that they need to do a report. And I guess the second part that I have of that, since we've already adopted provisions in our Constitution which allows them to adopt rules that have the full force and effect of law, there's no reason in the world that the court can't do that on its own accord. So I think the bill is unnecessary. And frankly, in terms of ordering the Chief Justice to do something, I don't think it's appropriate. So that's why I would make the recommendation in expedient for legislature. Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with hesitancy, I want to speak to the other side of what you just addressed. I was part of the commission that looked into this issue. trying to establish mental health courts statewide, which we have not been able to do so far. Unlike drug courts where there are national standards, there are not national standards for mental health courts. So not having national standards and having different issues that mental health courts would have in more rural areas in terms of, for instance, accessibility to judges and transportation, all those other kind of things are very different in rural courts than in more urban courts. It was the sense of the committee or the commission with a ton of various stakeholders to say that the Supreme Court, which is at the top of the food chain as far as mental health courts go, should be the one to devise a system that will work in New Hampshire. This proposal has not been objected to by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is very able to send a spokesperson over to our committee and say that they felt this would be inappropriate. They did not do so. In fact, as I recall, Judge Nadeau of the Superior Court came in and testified in favor of this proposal. So in the absence of objection from the Supreme Court on the technicality that our chair has brought forward, we need to move it forward. The most efficient and best way to move this forward, according to the stakeholders, a very broad base of stakeholders, was this proposal. Most came in here with support, one after the next, after the next, after the next. And I would hope that this committee would support moving the mental health court process forward.
Representative Macbeth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with all due respect of the chair's experience in the judiciary, which I greatly defer to, but I feel like this bill, instead of being a breach of the three branches of government and the allocation of power, is really just authorizing an internal audit of this program, which would help them coordinate their services. And I think that now we know COVID has been a health crisis, but from that has sprung a mental health crisis. And I feel that it's a timely issue because this audit will give us, current information on the demand and need of resources for this court. So I ask my colleagues and the chair to consider that, and if this amendment could be withdrawn and we could consider to pass. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So we just recently have instituted drug courts across our state. And it seems to me that the mental health courts are following the path that the drug courts follow. And that was, first you try it, and you find out what works and how it can be implemented. And then you come in and say, we want to do this across the state. And this body was very accepting of that. But I don't see why the mental health court is different in the sense that we never told the judiciary branch how to implement drug courts. We never told them what standards to establish or how they would operate. And I don't think we should be doing it now.
Just one follow-up on the comments that there is a difference between the drug courts and the mental health courts, and that the drug courts are in the Superior Court, and mental health courts are in the Circuit Court. And Judge Nadeau testified, but Judge Nadeau is in the Superior Court, not in the Circuit Court, where the mental health courts are. And we really didn't hear from the Circuit Court And I do have concerns, and I think it gets to your inquiry, Representative Macbeth, which I think is appropriate. And the question is, are there resources in the, if you can adopt standards, but are there resources in the circuit court to actually hold mental health courts? Because I think it's been the desire of the circuit court for a very long time to expand the mental health court program, but they just don't have the resources in order to be able to do. Representative Birch.
Yes, that's true. There is a resource problem, which is why this was going to come back sooner or later to the legislature anyway, no matter what. To answer Representative Welper's question, there already are national standards in the mental health world. We didn't have to come up with best practices. There are no standards adopted nationwide in terms of mental health courts. Excuse me, I meant earlier to say drug courts. Drug courts have national standards, mental health courts do not. They do not run on the same model. The method of delivering service, in fact, looked into whether it should be one group doing both or whether it should be done separately. The service providing, the service theory is different in both cases. So again, if it was felt that the Supreme Court was in the best place to come up with a comprehensive set of standards which would work for the courts that they supervise and staff, and they can look at the places that already have it in our state and use that information.
Discussion, comments? Seeing none, we do have a motion of inexpedient legislation.
House Bill 578, inexpedient to legislate. Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walper votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Lassell,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Tosh,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
No.
Representative Birch,
No.
Representative Oregon,
No.
Representative DiLorenzo,
No.
Representative Chase,
No.
Representative Kenny,
No.
Representative Langley,
No.
Representative Macbeth,
No.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Simpson,
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 10 in the negative.
And will there be a minority report? Representative Birch, is that you?
I can. I don't know if we had someone else lined up or not. Happy to do that.
I'm happy to do it, but you have spoken so eloquently and we're on the committee, or on the commission, study committee rather. So Representative Birch, I'll defer to you if you.
All right.
I understand the problem, Representative Birch, that might arise, and we'll deal with that.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when you get to the next bill, would you let me make the motion?
I would, I'd be pleased to do that.
Are you ready for that?
On 597, this is an act relative to the expectation of, would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would like to move retain. And the reason I ask to make the motion doesn't necessarily have to do with the substance, since I actually, in fact, think this is a good bill. And I think the amendment makes it even better. It answers all of the opposition. But I have a feeling, Mr. Chair, in the back of my mind, that if I in fact move retain, this might be another opportunity to show how well the Judiciary Committee works together. And on that basis, I would like to move retain.
Representative McLean, would you like to second that?
I'll second that.
So moved by Representative Smith and seconded by Representative McLean to retain this bill. Is there any discussion on that? If not, Mr. Clerk, would you like to take the roll?
On retaining House Bill 597, Representative McLean,
Yes.
Representative Sylvia,
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes. Representative Alexander,
Yes.
Representative Rice,
Yes.
Representative Moselle,
Yes.
Representative Green,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Todd,
Yes.
Representative Trottier,
Yes.
Representative Smith,
Yes.
Representative Byrd,
Yes.
Representative Horrigan, Representative Thirsty,
Yes. Yes, I would,
Representative DiLorenzo,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Kenny,
Yes.
Representative Langley,
Yes.
Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Page,
Yes.
Representative Simpson,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that's a unanimous retention.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for giving me the privilege of making that motion. It makes me feel so much better.
Thank you. Thank you for making the motion. It's been so far, it's been a pleasure to work together on what we've done so far this year. And that brings us to the last bill for the day, House Bill 630, an act relative to remote board meetings under the right to know law and authorizing procedures for voting. Representative Sylvia, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. While I originally was thinking that this bill should be entirely killed, I would like to move OTP and offer an amendment.
And is that seconded by someone?
I'll second it.
That's Representative Macbeth. Okay. You can speak to that, Representative Sylvia, if you'd like to.
Thank you. So I would like to offer an amendment, and this is a fresh amendment you would have gotten from our assistant Jennifer Four this morning at I think it was just around 9 o'clock we got this through. But the amendment is 0753H. And this amendment strikes section 1 from the bill, which is about the 91A and remote meetings. And it leaves intact sections 2, 3, and 4, renumbers those to 1, 2, 3. And that leaves the signature allowance for that particular part of the bill. So this is the only way that I could find to save half a loaf, and this is what I offer.
Representative Macbeth, did you want to speak to it too?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Sylvia. So I really didn't realize this bill would be controversial at all. It's got bipartisan, it's a Republican prime sponsor and bipartisan and Senate support. It was offered by sponsor is a member of last session's Administrative Rules Committee, and it seemed to me just like it was a bill to help our government, process rules quicker and faster. And Representative Sylvia's amendment does take out a very important part of the bill to me, but in the effort to work bipartisanly and to save half a loaf, I'm willing to support this amendment and have the bill go through as OTPA. I realize we're just voting on the amendment now, but there's where I am. Thank you very much.
Representative Horrigan?
Yes, I think the section 1 is the most important half of the loaf. So, and I know where it changes the way public bodies have to run their meetings, but I think it's just something that I think this is something that's a very good idea. It's also been extremely popular. Public participation in public body meetings of all sorts, including legislative committees, has gone up, and that's generally a good thing. It's totally a good thing. I'm not going to qualify it. And in any case, it's just enabling legislation. So it just says that they may have the remote telephone and video options, which some have been doing for years already. So there wasn't anything prohibiting them from doing it before. So that's, it does sort of put the onus on if the chair or the members of the public body decide not to have it, the public will now demand to know, well, why aren't you doing it? So that's going to be a problem for public bodies that don't want to do it, but I think they should do it. And for the second part, that I actually had a little more doubts about that, but I think the second part's good. But I'll definitely vote against the amendment. And second part, I'm a few minutes away, but I still haven't decided because I don't know if that's a big deal anyway, and we already have provisions for electronic signatures, so that's already been done too. So anyway, so the amendment, I think it's a bad amendment. Bill, it's a bad amendment of a good bill. So I urge you to vote no on the amendment. Thanks.
Anyone else want to address it? Yes, Representative Simpson.
Thank you. I just want to say about the amendment that, as we know from previous bills, I am for the remote language that's in there, but also the bill is more than that, and anything we can do to facilitate rulemaking, which it seems like those who requested this bill see this as an important bill to pass. I'm in favor of the amendment.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We can vote on the amendment. This is Amendment 0753H to House Bill 630. Mr. Clerk, you want to call the roll?
On accepting Amendment 0753H to House Bill 630, Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Walter Wilson, yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Massell.
Yes.
Representative Reed.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trotter.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Birch.
Yes.
Representative Horrigan.
No.
Representative DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Representative Chase.
Yes from her.
Yes.
Representative Kennedy.
Yes.
Representative Langley.
Yes.
Representative Macbeth.
Yes.
Representative Page.
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have it as 20 to 1.
You've adopted the amendment to House Bill 630. Is there any further discussion at this point? If not, Mr. Clerk, you can call the roll on the recommendation of ought to pass as amended.
House Bill 630 is amended by 0753H. Ought to pass as amended, Representative McLean. Okay, Representative McLean.
Yes.
Representative Sylvia.
Yes.
Representative Walker votes yes. Representative Alexander.
Yes.
Representative Rice.
Yes.
Representative Silver is not here. Representative LaSalle.
Yes.
Representative Green.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Tosh.
Yes.
Representative Trottier.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Representative Birch.
Yes.
Representative Horgan.
No.
Representative DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Representative Chase.
Yes.
Representative Kenny.
Yes.
Representative Langley.
Yes.
Representative Macbeth.
Yes.
Representative Page.
Yes.
Representative Simpson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have it again at 20-1.
Voted 20 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. You've adopted the recommendation of ought to pass as amended. That concludes the bills that we have pending today. I just want to go through just to make sure we understand.
Will that go on consent or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, would Tim,
No objection.
Representative Horgan, do you want to do a minority report?
Thanks for asking. No, but I'm happy to let it go through on consent, since I would have voted for this if it had just come through originally as a standalone bill and the other issue had not been attached to it. So
Without objection.
yeah, so it's fine. Put on consent. I have no objection to that.
Without objection, I'll indicate it should be on the consent calendar. Representative Chase, you have.
Yes, I just have something I wanted to say before we finish out, but I wanted to get my hand up. So go ahead and do the announcements, and then I'd like to just make a comment on Bill 478.
Okay. What I'd like to do is just go through the bills to make sure we know who's writing the reports. So on House Bill 149, I have Representative Rice. Actually, that's a retained bill. We don't need to worry about that. House Bill 216. That was Representative Alexander writing the majority report and Representative Simpson writing the minority report. House Bill 232, Representative Sylvia and Representative Horgan writing a minority report. On House Bill 288, Representative Macbeth writing the majority report and Representative Sylvia writing the minority report. House Bill 379, House Bill 402, Representative majority report and Representative Birch writing the minority report. House Bill 418 is retained. House Bill 440, Representative Sylvia writing the majority report and Representative Kenny writing the minority report. House Bill 478, Representative McLean, that's a retained bill, sorry. House Bill 540, Representative Chase writing the majority report, and that bill would be on the consent calendar. House Bill 542, Representative Wolper writing the majority report, Representative Simpson writing the minority report. House Bill 550, Representative Sylvia writing the majority report, Representative Page writing the minority report. House Bill 561, Representative Sylvia writing the majority report, Kenny writing the minority report. House Bill 566, Representative Alexander writing the majority report, Representative Corrigan writing the minority report. House Bill 578, I'll write the majority report, Representative Birch writing the minority report. 597 is retained. And House Bill 630, Representative Sylvia is writing the majority report, and that would be placed on the consent calendar. If you could get your reports to me by the end of tomorrow, I would greatly appreciate that, and I'll get them out. My comment that before I call upon Representative Chase is just to say we went through a lot of business today. We did it very efficiently, and credit to the committee. And we didn't agree on everything today, but I have to say that the committee did its business very respectfully today. And that's greatly appreciated. Everybody's cooperation in doing that. And Representative Chase, did you want to have something to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did, because I raised my hand, but I was hesitant, and you didn't see it, and that's fine. I'm glad we're retaining this bill, but I just wanted to say, coming from another small town, although Merrimack's not just real small, but we have a village water district ourselves, and we have run into quite a few of the same instances as the MVD, but not necessarily PFAS, but just having trouble trying to get the state to either settle things or just sort of step in and help us. So I completely understand what it is they're doing, the frustration, the things that were made, like the agreements that were made kind of in the closed sessions without letting the people of the village district vote on it, which has happened to us as well. I know that's part of the procedure. It's different than a town, but I really do hope that we can find a solution and help them with this problem, because I think they've got the underhanded deal here and really need to try to help with the water situation and the damage that's being done by St. Cobain and other places as well. I don't want to put all the blame there, but I just needed to say that because I felt bad that I didn't stick up for the what's the town's trying to do, their village district. That's it. Thank you. I feel better.
Yes.
So Mr. Chairman, do you have any idea what this schedule for this committee will be between now and the time we have session, or?
No, the only thing that I know is at some point in time we'll be getting Senate bills. We don't have any Senate bills at this point in time. Obviously, I'm not going to waste people's time with one or two bills. You know, I'll wait till we get critical mass so that we can be efficient in the way we use our time. But as soon as we do get critical mass on Senate bills, I certainly will call the committee back to order again.
Mr. Chairman, would it be worth our while to do a little work on one or more of the retained bills that we have? Yeah. If the committee would like to work on retained bills, as I indicated last time, what I'd like to do on the retained bills is, if in fact there are bills in which there are people who would like to form a committee, I would be more than happy to appoint that and have them work on those retained bills. If there are bills that we've retained that people don't spend their time working on individually as small committees, I'm more than happy to work on it as a committee as a whole and deal with them when we have to in the fall.
Mr. Chair, do you need the speaker's agreement if you are to act to start acting on retained bills now? I'm not acting, start working on retained bills now. Sometimes the speakers over the years have had strong feelings about that, and I'm not privy to Speaker Packard's views.
Well, I'll join you in that. And so I don't know. My guess is that he has no objection to people working on the bills. The question is whether he's going to pay mileage for people to do that. But that's been the problem in the past. But or to be in the building during the middle of the summer. So, but I will find that out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Horgan.
Yeah, what is the time frame for acting on them? Can the committee, what happens if we come to a consensus before the usual October or November timeline when retaining bills under so-called normal circumstances are dealt with? So, like, is there any chance of voting any of these up or down before January 2022, or we're pretty much they're on hold till then, which I'm sure we'll be here soon enough. So maybe not a terrible thing.
I'm not anticipating acting on any of the bills prior to the end of the year.
Thank you.
Representative Birch.
Yeah, just to let members of the committee know that I'm working on the conservation.
You're frozen, Paul.
Pardon?
He's back. He's back.
Oh, and anyone who wants to contact me, I've reached out to stakeholders, but anybody on the committee wants to reach out to me and either work on it or provide suggestions, you know how to reach me.
What was this? The conservation easement. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 82 or 83, one of the two.
Representative Chase.
No, I just was, what am I on? Saying that I would help you or like to be involved in that.
All right, great.
Is there anything else that I just want to, as has been pointed out already once today, there's a lot of work that's been placed on the clerk, and I just want to appreciate the fact that Kurt has done woman's work in terms of all the work that he's had to do and accomplish. And I've had great support, in particular with regard to the hearings we've had with regard to Representative McLean as well. And I certainly want to compliment Representative Smith, who has been wonderfully cooperative in terms of getting things done as well.
It's a pleasure to work with you, Representative Gordon, even when we don't agree.
Okay, is there anything else people have? If not, we'll adjourn to the call of the chair. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
Bye,
go.
y'all.
Thank you. Goodbye, colleagues.